Hello, everybody, and welcome YouTube followers and Facebook followers and anybody else that's watching this, especially listening to the Pure Joy podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm back this week with Louise. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
She and I just finished a 21-day abundance course. Actually, you're on your 19th day, Kate, and I finished mine like a week ago because you'll find out through our talking today about it, but it's basically 21 days of abundance, and it's through Deepak Chopra, through his institute. And we just wanted to kind of talk about it today and what we experienced through this 21-day course and some of the insights we got, and also talk about some other stuff too.
Yeah.
We're actually getting ready. She and I are just talking because as you're listening to this, today is March 10th, and we're getting ready to leave, or I'm getting ready for a long road trip with my friend Sherry to Sedona, and we're going to be at the Sedona Yoga Festival. And this is getting released before the festival starts, so if you still want to go, you want to head out to Sedona. It starts on Thursday, March, I believe, 11th, and it goes through the weekend, 12th, 13th, 14th, and possibly a Monday. You can look it up. Anyway, so I'm about to head out on that road trip, but Kate's going to meet me there, and we're really excited about camping together, even though it's going to be raining. And
we're doing a workshop on Saturday.
Yeah, so that's the reason we're going. We're going because both of us are teaching a kind of easy, quick and easy, healthy foods for yogis. And we're going to teach our Superwoman coffee and some smoothies that are awesome, which can also turn into desserts. I personally love to have my smoothies as desserts because I'm an intermittent faster. We both are, so we don't really eat in the morning. Like, I love not having breakfast. It keeps my energy going all day long. So I don't always want a smoothie early, but sometimes after dinner or just later in the day before dinner, or if I don't even want dinner, like, I want a smoothie snack. And what a smoothie snack would be is like our Choco Maca smoothie, which has cacao powder and or carob powder if you're sensitive to cacao. Some maca, which is a superfood, and it's a hormone balancer. It's a libido booster. We put in stuff like cacao nibs, and we sweeten it with stevia to keep it keto, but you could also use honey or coconut sugar or dates. And it's got, I like to put medicinal mushrooms in everything. So like chaga and reishi powder and turkey tail powder, and especially lion's mane, which is good for the brain. But anyway, we're going to be teaching a lot of these recipes of how to make quick and easy foods that keep you healthy. Because a lot of people that go vegan or plant-based, they go into Oreos are vegan, Twinkies are vegan, and that's a good start, just to kind of, it's not actually a good start. Who am I kidding? Eating sugar and processed foods is not a good start to veganism. Yeah. But if someone's just like, I want to be vegan and I have to do anything I can to stay vegan, okay, whatever. But just taking a look at where the processed foods and gosh, there's just so much stuff. Actually, I want to talk about this before we get started on the 21-day Kate. I was talking to my roommates last night. I have a 25-year-old roommate, and at the moment, another guy that's staying here is in his 30s. But we were talking about packaged food and how, you look at, so there's a company who I love called Primal Kitchen, and they just got bought out by a big company. And whenever a company gets bought out, you want to keep reading the labels again because you feel like, okay, I found a product. Like, for me, that works. It's not vegan. It has some collagen powder in it, which I feel works really well for my body, but it's really low carb, and I feel like it's a quick energy bar when I'm on the run. And then I looked at it again, and I texted it to Kate, the label, because it changed. They upped their fiber, and there's this fake fiber thing that they do a lot with keto foods, with packaged keto foods. And I think we might have talked about this last time, Kate. Mm-hmm. But quickly to say, they have 10 grams of fiber in it now, which is all fake fiber. And, you just got to keep reading your labels is all I want to say. And eating the highest quality, really what it needs to go back to, and we'll do a whole podcast on this though, is going back to the kitchen and just making your food yourself, growing your own gardens, which I'm actually looking at land here in Bend right now. We really want to create community. I know that's one of my purposes here on the planet, is to build community in that kind of way where we can make whole foods, and that increases your pineal and your connection to source. And all these distractions we have, bringing it back to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all about teaching people how to get back in the kitchen, see how quick and easy it is to prep a bunch of food, and how delicious it really is. We rarely eat out because what we make at home is always so much better. So that's
Yeah.
the
And I
core.
gotta say, like, I used to be one of those people that liked to eat out, and I felt deprived if someone was like, don't eat out, eat at home. And I think I even remember when I first lived with you, Kate, even though I was eating super clean and healthy, I still like to go out and have my Chipotle from time to time, and my health, my just eating out was a treat to me. And then when I lived with you, you're like, I never eat out because you have celiac,
Yeah.
and like you just couldn't take the chance. And I thought, oh my God, how boring to never eat out. So I just want to acknowledge that right now for anybody listening. It's like, what do you mean never eat out? Like, and I'm not saying I never eat out. There's a couple places here in Bend, or actually one place called Active Culture, that I feel like I can eat at and get keto food, and I still feel good after I eat it. But if that concept to you right now sounds absolutely insane, don't worry about it. Like, put it in your consciousness. But I'm there now. So I'm in that place where I thought Caitlin was crazy, where I'm like, yeah, why would I eat out? Why would I drink alcohol? Why would I put toxins in my body? Why would I go out and get the chance of having canola oil in my food when I know I'm going to wake up puffy and inflamed? And my day, I lose like a whole day of feeling good and blissful and joyful. Like, my day is still okay, but like it changes my day. And so I like to talk about putting things in your consciousness where if you're not ready yet, and actually right now I'm exploring a dark retreat, a 10 days in darkness. And I'm like, all right, I'm not ready yet, but maybe I will be for my birthday in June. And I'm just going to put it in my mind of a possibility. And then what happens is you start to just warm up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you're like, I'm ready. So it's that way with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. And I think with the eating out piece, you have to have a replacement. So you can't just, okay, I'm putting it in my consciousness, I'm not going to eat out. And then also put it in your consciousness that you're going to learn how to make really delicious food at home so that you aren't really missing anything. So you got to also like reteach yourself how to cook.
Yeah, I always say it's like learning a new language. It's like you're not going to know Spanish overnight. So don't be too hard on yourself. And, if you're listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube, like, you're watching us for a reason. And even if you don't know why you're watching us, like, your consciousness brought you here. And if you're really ready, and this is why we're talking about the 21-day abundance course today, if you're really ready to take your consciousness to the next level, like you're ready to like take your life on in a way that's you're in charge of it, and you're not just at the mercy and whims of other people and the weather and your job and like all that stuff. Like, you're here because you're ready. And I found out 22 years ago that I was ready to take on my life in a huge way. And that's when I went 100% raw vegan and dove into a super deep dive cleanse that was super intense and scary. And I cried and had all these emotional releases, but I just keep coming back. It's like a pit bull. Like, okay, I did that. Oh, now I'm going to go like have some pizza. Again, I'm going to come back. And then the next time it's like, okay, I had an Oreo cookie. Okay, I'm going to come back. And like 22 years later, I'm like, I never have Oreo cookies. I never have pizza. I never have this. But it wasn't overnight. Like, and it's the same way with meditation or with the 21-day abundance course is great because you get a little snippet every day. But you just keep coming back and like just getting your little taste. And then you realize that the taste of the good stuff, whether it's the good food, the good meditation, the good thoughts, the good like people around you, the people that you're choosing versus the people that you feel subjected to, like it starts getting yummier and yummier, and your body starts to get more blissful and joyful, and you're like, oh wow, this is the life that I came here to live. Like, I came into a body, my soul came into a body, which my body is housing this amazing being inside of me that I want to have the most lit experience in these 100 years that I'm alive on this planet, or 120, or however long you've decided you're going to be here. Let me make it the best I can and not just be like, oh, I'm just at the mercy of this like video game that's happening to me and things are flying at me. Like, guess what? I get to be in charge. And that's what Kate and I teach with the food and with the meditation and with all the stuff we do. But that's what this 21-day abundance course that we just did is about. And it's funny, even if you're a regular meditator, which we both are, and even if you're someone who feels like, yeah, I've got my life together and like I've got abundance, it's way deeper than that. It's way deeper than having money in your bank account. It's like next level stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really loved it too, because even if you do have a regular meditation practice, it's really beneficial sometimes to be guided by someone else and to have a thing to do every single day. So that's what I really loved about it. And just like, you and I, we go off to OHI to do a cleanse, or, we go on our own retreats, for us to get filled back up. Sometimes it's just nice to just like open your app, you do the assignment for the day and you do the meditation. And it's like
Yep.
this thing that you can just check off your list. And so, and I also found it really beneficial for the people around me that joined the group also who aren't regular meditators. But it was like it's like a kickstart, or like really gets you in the mindset to like make this a daily practice, because 21 days doesn't seem like a long time, but it is a long time for a lot of people. And 3 weeks of full commitment to doing like 30 minutes a day for yourself, it's a lot for a lot of people.
It is. And what I found, because what it says, so we're going to go over kind of the days briefly. We don't want to give everything away, but we do want to talk about our experience. And if you're curious and you're going, well, how do I get to be part of this? Katelyn and I just decided, because what it is it's one of those things that you pass it on. So on day, I forget which day, I think it's like
Day
you're
5.
5 days in, you start your own group and you invite your friends and you start your own, like on your app, which is the WhatsApp, but we're going to do it through our course. So if you decide you want to join our spring love camp, one weekend we're going to start the 21-day course. So your last 3 weeks of the love camp, you get to be part of this. So if you're listening to us today and going, how do I get to be part of this? You can do it by joining our love camp. But I'm sure there's also other ways to find it. We'll link you to the Deepak Chopra website on the show notes, or on the underneath this if you're watching it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that I really liked that he said when he started out, I was looking back in my notes, and his day 1 introduction was basically just like explaining what abundance is. And he's always coming back to abundance always starts from within. It's always from our intention, our attention, and our belief system. So once we know that all the abundance that we seek is already inside ourselves, and that's how we have the ability to manifest, like that was such a good foundation and explanation. And he said, you'll know when you're in true abundance when your life is joyful, healthy, happy, you have a sense of purpose, and you're always overflowing with like synchronicities, what he calls synchrodestiny. So that's kind of his like gauge to see, okay, am I living in true abundance? And it's not just abundance of wealth. Like he's talking about abundance in relationships, abundance in your work life, like all areas of life are abundant, not just like what your bank account looks like.
Exactly. And it is. It's like, it's just, you keep bringing it back to the self. Like where am I showing up for myself, and where am I showing up for other people? And like the reflections just go really deep, the deeper you get into the course. And the great thing is, if you're thinking about like, do I have time for this? It's literally, you get a meditation every morning, and it's literally usually 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And his voice is so soothing, and he just takes you in deep, and you just fall in love with it. Like I was really sad on my 21st day. I'm like, this is the last day. And I just told Katelyn, I'm like, I think I'm going to start it again. Just because the second time around, I think I'll get like, oh, I didn't hear him say that before. You know how you read a book again or you watch a movie again and you're like, oh, I totally missed that part. Because our minds wander, and that's just part of it. But you also get an assignment. So the first day, which I thought was really great, is to pick 50 people who have positively influenced your life. And I'm actually still adding to it. Like after my 21 days, I've got it written here. If you're watching, you can see the list. But after 21 days, I went back and I was like, oh, I forgot about this person. I forgot about that person. And like, to know that like, that's abundance. Like there's 50 people that have influenced your life positively. And I was even going back to Mr. Sully, who was my 9th grade high school teacher, who I totally adored because he was funny and I felt seen. And just like these random people in my life, it makes you really like stretch. Like, so was there any like for you, Katelyn, on that list of 50 that like was a stretch? Like, oh, like I have to kind of go deeper than my parents and my boyfriend and my sister and my,
Yeah, I mean, I realized how many people in Bali influenced me. Like there was a really big percentage, because that was a big time in my life when I lived there, that I was like this awakening happening all the time, and influencers all the time, and mentors and teachers. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe in the span of 3 years that I was there, how many people I came into contact with. Whereas when I thought about like my childhood and everything, it was probably the same amount. But my childhood was like, 20 years, or give or take, and then Bali was like 3. So it was interesting to see, how many fell in each category. But I also put my 9th grade teacher, which is really interesting. It was like the most influential teacher that I had all throughout my schooling.
Yeah. And I think some teachers realize it, but for me, like teachers, like I look back on my second grade teacher who I was in love with and I wanted her to be my mom, Miss Westmoreland. But like teachers really, like you're listening and your teacher, you have a huge influence on the students in your life, whether they're college students, high school students, or grade school students. Like it's hugely impactful. Like those kids are spending a lot of time with you, you know? So like I look back on the teachers and the people that influenced me, and you're right. And even my best friend's mom, I put her down because she was a big impact for me, and her dad too. Like it all matters.
Right.
And yeah, it's like I'm getting kind of teary-eyed thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's fun to go back on that too and think, because it's really the first people that pop into your head, you know, those are the people you have to write down. And it's interesting to witness yourself remember those first people, because some of them I was like, oh wow, I didn't think they really influenced me that much, but I guess like now thinking about it, they really did.
Yeah.
And just like it didn't have this in it, but on some of them I kind of wrote like a little story or a little just like, oh, they really influenced me in this area of my life. So that was kind of a fun project to do too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, and my list is still going. I'm at 58 at this point. My 58 is Oprah. Oprah with me, man. She's amazing.
Right.
You know, like just over the years of all the things that, you know, like she's one of those beings on the planet that I feel like, wow, she has impacted so many people. If I could even influence a drop of what she's influenced, I would be happy. If I influence one person for the better, which I know I have done, like that's exciting to me. I want to be on somebody's list.
You were on my list.
You're on my list. Cool. All
See,
right.
that was only day one, and see how much it has impacted us.
Yeah. Okay, so this was a good one. The second day was about the debts, all of our debts, and you don't have to write down like what your amount of debt is. It's like all your debts and like any monthly payments, like electricity bill and trash bill and this and that, car payments, but any debts like credit card debts or house debts or things like that. So the reason you're writing this down, and it doesn't really take very long, is just to kind of go, oh, okay, this is where I'm at. Like this is my monthly net, or this is just what I'm looking at. And you don't have, like I said, you don't have to know the amounts, just to kind of look and go, okay, well, I've got quite a few things or very little things, like it depends. So anything else from that day that like impacted you, Caitlin?
Yeah, I think it's a good exercise to just look at what is going in and out each month and be aware of it. Because a lot of times we're not aware. Like we know what our bills are, but adding them all up together gives a little bit more perspective.
Yeah, you know, I do actually want to speak to that because I've been one of those people, like if you look at my personality, like, you know, we have all these different categories we're in, whether we're a manifestor or this or that, but there's one where you've got like people that are avoiders, and I happen to be like in the avoider category. So when it comes to bills and money, I've always been an avoider. I've always had abundance. I've always had enough. I've always had been able to live in great houses, drive nice cars, like eat organic food. So like I don't lack for anything, but I'm also one of those people that like, oh, planning for my future. Yuck. Ooh. Looking at that, like it's just, I want to run. So this has been, this 21 days has actually helped. Like I started out suddenly like, you know, Susie Orman, I think her name is Orman. Like I would be like, God, I don't want to listen to that because it's going to make me feel bad about myself, or like anything having to do with wealth. Rich Dad Poor Dad, all that stuff. It's like, oh, it's just, there's something icky that comes up in me. And I'm like, ooh, what is that? So after this, or during this 21 days, I started to like, oh, let me listen to these podcasts or these YouTube videos on wealth. Like I've never been able to do that before. So something clicked in me in these 21 days. And I mean, I'm going to be 55, so it's not like I'm a spring chicken. Like to wait this long in my life to finally actually look at my money situation, and it's like, okay, better start. Like anyway, not better. Like there's no like I have to start looking at it, but there was something in me that was now suddenly excited. Like, oh, I could do this. Like something clicked on in me.
Well, and I think the whole point of the 21 days is to make you look at abundance differently. So if it's something that looks scary or unattainable or like stressful, it kind of switches your mindset to be like, oh no, well, this is like, I'm worthy of all this. This is my birthright. It actually starts from what I believe. So if I'm, you know, avoiding or believing that this situation is stressful, well, it's probably going to be stressful. And that, you know, that rings true for any situation in our life. So that was a good, like, it makes sense that now you're interested to look at that.
Yeah. I mean, and even things like income taxes, like, taxes, like I just put it off. And that's the other part of my personality is I'm going to fully expose myself. I'm also I don't know if procrastinator is the right word. Like I'm more of a sprinter. Like I'll just do things at the very last minute. But someone pointed out to me that I get a dopamine hit from that. They're like, why do you pack at the very last minute? I'm like, oh, just because I can do it. And I don't want to like, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I think you get a dopamine hit from that stress at the last minute. And I was like, ooh, yep. So
Yep.
like, in what ways are we doing that where we're stressing ourselves out, like by not thinking about our finances or not doing our taxes at the last minute? It's like, yeah. So it's making me look more at that part of myself too. And I'm still not perfect, but far from it. But I'm like, at least I'm in it now. I'm in it. I'm like, okay, you can do this. Because
You can
I
do
don't
this.
need to do it for me. Oh, Caitlin, you help me a lot.
I do see that little dopamine hit that you get, and it stresses me out. I'm like, ah!
I know. I'm giving you the dopamine too. Here you go.
I know. I'm like, sometimes I get used to it, and I like it too.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so day 3 was really fun. Day 3 was when we get to draw. We get to do a little artwork, and I'll just hold up my little page of drawing money, drawing abundance, drawing whatever that means for us. Like we could write yourself a check for. So I have a check on my refrigerator that says $7 million, and it's written out to me, and it's actually coming to me by my birthday, which is June 12th, 2020, my 55th birthday. So anyway, I did that, and then I actually wrote on the paper, I wrote a $5 million check. So maybe I'm going to get 2 checks. And then stacks of money. And then I just started writing like all the money down and where it was going to come from and who it was going to come from. And then some, like at the end, I'm like, from an unexpected donor, I'm going to get $10 million. Why not? The sky's the limit, right? Like, I mean, you could say $100 million, you could say $1 billion, but I want to make it believable. Like, I believe that I could get $10 million in this lifetime. I'm not sure if I got the billion,
Yeah. Yeah, that one was fun for me. I did more like I drew a home, like my own home, and like a big garden and greenhouse, like kind of the land that I want. And like I drew a lot of people. So I guess mine was more like a vision of like what I would do with the abundance that's coming.
Yes.
Not necessarily like numbers or anything, but yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
I totally, like, I think that they both work. Like, so for me, when I look at this, it makes me realize, okay, this is for my community property that I want to have here in the Pacific Northwest. And actually yesterday I went with a friend who also did the abundance course, and we looked at a $750,000 property, and we walked around it, and it's like a huge property that we could have her nature school on and do community. Actually, it's Amara Dreamer, who I interviewed on a previous podcast. But anyway, yeah, so you start like actually like I see myself now doing the things, like I'm going to go out and look at a property, and I'm going to do things that in the past I'm like, oh, I don't have that yet,
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah,
making me kind of push myself forward.
Yeah, I like that. Like starting to put it into action. And I feel too, like once you see something that you actually want, like you're visually like taking it in, it also comes in a lot quicker. Like if it, sometimes for me, if it's just like floating in my mind, like this is kind of what I want, like looking at the actual physical piece of land just makes it that much more real.
Yeah, boots on the ground. You're like, you're in it. Like, so going to, okay, so here's a great one. I might start doing this, going to an open house on the weekend of like $1 million home, walking around it, like, ooh, look at that bathtub. Ooh, what would that be like? Or taking yourself like in your mind online on a luxury vacation, and like, ooh, like imagining yourself in that, like with that view or doing those things. And like, I think and then the feeling of it. So to me, a lot of creation is about the feeling place. As maybe you don't know if you're listening, but the way that you create your reality is always from a feeling place. So if you're feeling really excited when you think about like your home that you're going to buy, Caitlin, and the land that you're going to have and the garden that you're going to grow, like if you think about, oh my God, my zucchini, and like exciting, like there's 100% more chance of you getting it than if you're just like, and not having the feeling of it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you want to go through all the days, but on that note, on one of the other days, you were writing out like your intention in this lifetime, and he's always bringing it back to like okay, the second question, well, how does this intention help others? Like, how does what you want to manifest, how is that like a ripple effect onto other people? And I believe that even the checks we write out and stuff, it is going to have the intention of other people always, because we always want more community. We're always wanting to share, like, especially with you and I, like if we were completely abundant in the business, I know how many more things we could bring to people, how many more people we could bring to us, how many more teaching modalities of healing we would bring, how much more education we would have for ourselves, which is basically like the ripple effect. So always like pulling it inward of what you want, but also like being able to see the big vision of like, oh, okay, this is going to be this for everyone involved, which is going to bring them more abundance. So it is like such a nice ripple effect.
And as you say that, I almost think it makes it easier for us to attract. If I'm thinking, oh, I just want this for me, versus like what our vision is together. I know, Katelyn, we talked about this, like having our own retreat center somewhere out in nature where we can offer these extended retreats for people that really need healing, or darkness retreats, which is something new that I'm excited about, or, you know, these different ways for people to come, like permaculture. And like a lot of people have that vision, but we have this vision of having our school, our culinary school, and everything like on this beautiful piece of land. And so, yeah, like as we think about that, I'm not just thinking about me, I'm thinking about you, Katelyn, I'm thinking about Bryce, who's your partner, I'm thinking about my future partner, I'm thinking about children who might come onto the land, I'm thinking about all the people and all the families that are going to be affected by it. And so that makes it so much more like doable in my mind, because I know it's not just for me. Like if I have any self-doubt about myself, it has nothing to do with that, because it's like, no, I deserve this because it's for everyone. It's like spirit working through me. So like instead of going, please give me this thing that I want for me, it's like, use me as your instrument and send me this abundance so that I can do these amazing things and like change the earth and like, you know, bring more pure joy to the planet.
Yay.
And that's like a worthy goal, right?
Yeah. No, that makes my heart sing. That's what I love.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of tell where you're at if someone asks you the question, what would you do if you had $1 million? And your first answer is like, I'd take a vacation and I'd pay off my bills, versus I'd buy a community. Like, I'm not just, that's kind of my vision, but like whatever it would be for you, where it's like, it's way bigger than you going on vacation. Like, dream big, right? So, and I think it's way more likely to get abundance if you're looking outside your tiny little world of yourself. Like, oh, I've always wanted those $400 shoes or whatever. It's so small.
Yeah. Unless they're gonna make you walk places and meet people and do cool things.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's cool too. Like, of course, I would do all that stuff as well, but the dream is like the bigger dream.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, what else? What else did you get out of this course? Well, I have a lot of notes written down. Oh yeah, that's day 6. Day 6 is a long one.
Yeah, day 6 is long. First, though, I want to just touch on like the oh, maybe I lost it. You can talk about day 6.
Well, day 6 was it's the longest one of the whole thing, and so if you're doing this course and you get to day 6 and you're like, oh my God, don't quit, because it's the only day where you have to write. Like out of the whole 21 days, there's one day where you have to do quite a bit of writing, and it took me, you know, I did it in a couple sessions because I had to keep writing, but it was really cathartic. By the time I had written it, I think you have to write it 10 times. It sunk in. Like, it's something about like writing, using your hand, and like at first it's kind of like anything. You're like, yeah, you know, you're not really listening, and then you're writing it, you're like, oh, I get it. And day 6 was really about well, let's see, I have to read it so I can remember. So you basically write your name and you say, I'm starting a new relationship with money today. Money is good, pure, useful, and necessary for my prosperity and growth, and for my satisfaction and abundance. Money brings positive things to my life. The success that I experience in life brings me money and my love to me and my loved ones. I deserve to flourish and have a lot of money. Money is my friend, and the value of my investment, I can't read my writing, is growing every day. And success and money accompany me here and now. I ask my parents, so then you go into your parents, your grandparents, your ancestors, your clan, to help you release anything negative that you have around money. Like if they had lack, like you kind of basically are, so this is why it's doing it 10 times was so cathartic, because the 10th time I'm like really tuning into my ancestors, not just my grandparents, but my great grandparents and the great grandparents who came from other countries and like clan before we were actually like civilized, and like all of that. Like anybody who had lack, like I pray to you now, like to help release me from that, like break those chains, break that lineage. And then I pray to my ancestors of anybody who felt abundant and like knew that abundance was there. It's like, show me the way. Like, so it's, I'm getting the chills. It's like, we're tapping into our lineage, and lineage is just, gosh, it's so profound. Like over the years I've worked with lineage, like on the matriarch, like the lineage of hatred or the lineage of victimhood or whatever, I've tapped into that. So this is like tapping into our lineage of abundance. Like, so people that are born into wealth, like it's just no big deal. Like everything comes easily to them. Money, they lose money, they get money, like because it's in their blood. So it's like I'm tapping into your bloodlines of like, yeah, remind me that I got this. You know? What did you get out of that one, Caitlin?
Definitely similar, but also, you know, some of the questions on like, what have your parents taught you about money, or like, what has your mom taught you about money? And just like also the realization that, you know, our parents learned from their parents and their parents learned from their parents. So it is the lineage that keeps going back. And like, whatever we learn from our parents now, like this is where it stops. Like, this is where I'm going to break the cycle, because my parents also couldn't do it and their parents couldn't do it. And it's amazing how quickly we learn about money and about lack from our parents. Like one of the things was like, go back to your very first memory that you ever learned about money. And going back to that place of when someone, you know, a parent said something like, oh no, we can't get that, or you know, whatever it is, it's like, that is a memory. It's stuck with you since you were maybe 4 or 5 and has now dictated the energy that you put towards money.
I think I'm one of those kids that did the opposite of what my parents taught me. Like some people just do the parent thing, because like my mom, we had 4 kids, and so 6 people on one income, so bless them. And I remember one time being in the grocery store with her and asking for grapes. We could not afford grapes. Like, so now I'm at the thing, like, I want organic, I'm getting it. Like, I deserve it. Like, so I've kind of done the opposite, like, as far as like, I can't afford that. Like, I never say that to myself about my food and my nourishment. But it's still like, that's a memory that's embedded in my mind. Like, we can't afford grapes. Like, we can't get grapes, are too expensive. Like, wow. I don't know. It just blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like we always had apples, oranges, and bananas. Those were the 3 fruits that I grew up on, because that was it. That was affordable.
Right. Yeah.
And
So
I don't hate apples and oranges and bananas, really. I don't like them. I like oranges sometimes.
Yeah. That's funny. Day 10 and 11 really stuck out for me, because day 10 was all about conscious choice making, like looking at your choices and being conscious around them. Like the mantra for the day was, today I make great choices because they are made with full awareness.
Yes.
And then it was choosing 2 things about yourself that limit yourself. And I think it's always so great to be introspective and look at the areas where maybe you're not making conscious choices. Maybe you make a choice because you're super busy or you're stressed out. Like we talked a lot about this with food on the last podcast, the mindfulness around eating podcast. And so it was just bringing back conscious choice making. When I make this choice, is it for my greatest and highest good?
Yeah, I love that day too. And it made me realize that sometimes my choices are made out of, well, a lot of times my choices are made out from emotions. And I think a lot of us do that. We choose, like, our emotions like run us. And I think there's a good balance between logic and emotions, and like finding that balance. For sure. And like I notice when I'm happy, I tend to be more of like, I'm more abundant. And when I'm sad, I feel, which makes sense, I feel less abundant. And then I want to like use my money to try and make me happy, or like purchase things like, oh, I'm down, I'm going to go see if there's a yoga top I can buy.
Yeah, right.
That. And we talked about food last time, but like we use that as a way to make us happy. And it's not always, it's kind of can be unsatisfying in a way. Like, so looking at like are we abundant with our emotions first? Like, are we abundant with our self-love? Are we abundant with our thoughts? And then that can just flood out into the world.
There was a lot of days where that was one of the questions, like, what is it? What are the gifts that you received today? Like, what is the abundance you already have? Because when you really look around you, like, oh man, like I have a car that's safe to drive and it gets me from A to B. I have a cell phone that, I can make connections on, I can do my work on, I have this computer. Like when you really look around, most of us have so much already. So it's like, if I already am so happy with what I have, I'm not seeking or needing. I'm just going to perpetuate what I already have and bring in more of the things that can help me with my life's mission.
It's
And
so
that's really
true. Like I was thinking about this weekend, I kind of went into, like, I call it my black hole. I went into a black hole over the weekend, and it's usually when I start fasting, and I just go in dark. Like I close the blinds and I just lay on my biomat in my room, which is an infrared crystal bed, which is so healing and amazing. And I do that like purposely, knowing like I need a retreat from everyone. But I started to feel kind of like forlorn a little bit, and so I started to think about, oh my God, like right now I have a bed to lay on. Like I have bamboo sheets that are just nourishing me. I have like a computer I can watch YouTube videos on about spirituality and things that are feeding my soul right now. Like, oh my God, like it just went on and on. And I was just looking, even just looking around my bedroom, I'm like, I have a beautiful dresser. I have a bed. I have da 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 da. Like, look at my skin. Look at my body. Like, I have a healthy body. Like, just, it's amazing how easy it is. So what was happening is at first I was feeling sorry, not really feeling sorry for myself, but just like, oh my God, like, I just was feeling forlorn, like feeling down. And then like it just became silly to me because I'm like, wow, like if you only knew in India, like someone's like living on the street with one leg and there's flies on their face, like they have no bed. And even just thinking about those things, I'm like, I am so abundant, I am so rich, I'm so wealthy. And especially living in a first world country. And I've talked about this before on the podcast, like living in the US, Canada, wherever you live, Europe, like we have everything at our fingertips. Even if you're feeling like you're not that abundant, like people in my life here in Bend that they feel like they're quote unquote broke, they still have a car to drive, they still have sunshine, they still have clothes they're wearing. Like it's all perspective, right?
Yeah, and Deepak said a few times, like, nature is true abundance. Like, if you can't believe or you don't know what abundance looks like, go out into a forest and look around. Like, look at the expansive amount of things that are alive in there. Like, that is abundance. Colors are abundance. Smell is abundance. Like, just witnessing things living and breathing and blowing in the wind, like that will just like take you back to that mindset of abundance.
Like a river just flowing by you. It's so, that's why I love living here, and I love going out in nature. Like every day I try and get out in nature. Looking out my window right now at these evergreen trees, even though it's winter, there's tons of green pine needles everywhere, like millions upon millions upon millions. Like that's abundance.
That's abundance. And day 11, I said I really like these 2 days, but day 11 was the abundant law of least effort. And this one really hit home for me because I've always been taught the mindset of no pain, no gain. If you don't work super, super hard, then you won't get what you want. And I feel like there's so many people who are also in that mindset. I feel like it's getting lost on the younger generations, like millennials and under. That's not necessarily the same mindset, but definitely like my generation and up, it's always like you have to work super, super hard in order to get what you want. And the abundance law of least effort was just all about saying, what can you do to receive abundance using the least amount of energy and effort?
Yeah, I love that one too. And I mean, I was also brought up by two parents that worked really hard. And so I always thought, like, if I wasn't working hard, I would feel guilty. And so, and then I observe people in my world that, especially a lot of people who are podcasters or who are doing these businesses of being like public speakers, just things just come to them so effortlessly and they just look like they're enjoying their life so much. I'm like, yeah, I can do that too. Like, we're going to Sedona. We're working, but we're going to Sedona. How awesome is that? Like,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
really stepping into that more and more and being like, And then I don't know about you, Caitlin, but I find when I allow myself to just be like effortless, that I'm excited to work. Like, I'm like, ooh, let me get that thing done. Like, I'm more inspired to write the recipes or to work on some of the stuff we're working on, or like do a podcast. Whereas if I feel like I'm not abundant, it's like, oh, I don't know. Like, it's the less effortless I am, the more I want to do stuff. And it feels effortless.
Yeah. And what I got to was, it's not about not doing the work. It's just about doing it with more ease and grace, like doing it in a very stress-free, carefree is what he said a lot, was how can you be the most carefree and easy with the work that you do in order to become more abundant. And that really stuck with me too, because I can get in the mindset so easily of like hustle, grind, like those words are just like so overused, and they're just like, that's what you got to do. You got to hustle, you got to grind, you got to, work this many hours a day in order to reach your goals. And the more that I like slow down, be in more flow, ease and grace, I get my work done really quickly. And then I'm sitting there like, oh, I feel like I should be still working. But it's like, no, you have worked so many years, you've built up all your education so much, and now it's just ease and grace, like ease and grace to attract the clients to us, ease and grace to find these beautiful retreat locations that we get to take people on. Like, it all just comes in such ease and flow.
Yep. And I love that. And, just, it seems like that's happening more and more. Like, I mean, the abundance that I've actually been receiving, even just in these 21 days, because when you start to put your consciousness around it, and one of the assignments, I want to talk a little bit about day 11 though, because before we move on, but we talked about our positive aspects of our mother, and like things that we remember that like we learned from her that were positive, which I think the practice of like your mother and what she taught you, like it was really profound for me. My mother passed in 2018, so like I can't go back and ask her questions, but it really just helped me kind of really tune into her as a being and what her hopes and dreams were and who she was as a person. And like seeing that her lack consciousness really was because she cared so much about her family that she was trying to do her absolute very best. And, like forgiving that too, like, because I think so many of us judge our parents or judge, things from our childhood that like weren't quote unquote perfect. And it's like, wow, like I just saw her for who she really was. And a lot of this course is about like tapping into your mother's energy. And a friend of mine who is doing the course that I'm like, so I did the 21 days and then I'm guiding, like Caitlin's in my course and she's on her 20th day today. Like we all guide our own courses, but she was like, wow, the mother thing really like got me, because it's stuff that we never really looked at before, and like really kind of dive deep into what were my mom's hopes and dreams, and like how did that affect me. And just it was just a deep dive. And I think so this is a very spiritual course. It's not just like, how do I attract more money? It's like you're going deep on so many levels of abundance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I really liked those ones
And
too.
even the negative things, like from one thing about my mom that I said that kept us apart, because that was one of the questions, like what kept you distant? And it was a lack of vulnerability. Like, so I felt like, so my judgment was always like, if she could have been more vulnerable with me and more real, then we could have been closer. But then I'm like, well, what was my role in that? Like, I could have been also more vulnerable. Like in my defense, or in my like loving myself, I did the best I could in the moment with the tools I had. And guess what? So did she. Like that was the tools that she had to work with from growing up in depression times. And like, you didn't really like have time to just be like, blah, 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 and sharing your feelings and emotions and being vulnerable. Like there was work to do. Like kids, you didn't share that stuff with your kids either. You didn't show your kids your vulnerability. So it really, I went into forgiveness and love and just so many like spiritual growth opportunities for me with my mom, and being able to kind of reconnect with her and ask her questions from beyond, like, come on, mom, tell me some things that were your hopes and dreams. Like, what did, you want to do with your life? And it was just really, I don't know, it was really beautiful.
Yeah, my partner's also doing it, and he lost his mom last year. And I think that was like, those couple days were a huge sort of letting go and awakening. And also, being able to ask someone who's not there, like the first answer you get, he's like, I heard her voice. Like it just like came to me. And you can work through a lot of your stuff through what your mom has taught you. And I wrote down so much, because it was like, how do you and your mom have similarities? And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can see so much. And I asked him, like, what do you see in us that are similar? And it's just like pages upon pages. And like, man, I'm ready to like let some of that stuff go too.
Yeah, I mean, we love our parents, but we also have to remember that we were programmed as well. And so nobody's perfect. So we want to just let go of those things that didn't serve us
Mm-hmm.
and be grateful.
Yes, always
Yeah.
grateful.
All right, what else? So we don't have to go through every day, like you said. Day 14 was just going into what brings me joy, which I love. Like, and so writing down so many things just kind of helped me tune into like what does bring me joy, and there's so many things. Like I wrote a lot about that, and so I think the reason this course is great is because it's easy. I think as humans, it's easy for us to focus on the negative or focus on what's not right. And the reason for that is survival. So that's in our limbic brain, which is in the back, our reptilian brain of survival. Like you have to look for the negative because you could get eaten, or you could like not have shelter that night. Like if you're a nomad, or, you know, another tribe could come along or whatever. So as now people that we are in a safe environment, we have to remember that those are just old, like that stuff's going to come in, but we don't have to grab onto it. So like think focusing more on what brings us joy and happiness and ease, and then the more we focus on it, then the more it shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And the other one I really liked was, what 3 gifts did you receive today? And it was another one that's like, it doesn't have to be money. You don't have to receive like a money gift today. But, you know, I went on a hike with a friend. That was an amazing gift. She gave me her time. She gave me her energy. I got to be in nature, which is abundant. So it also just brings you back to always being grateful about the little things. I think a lot of this abundance course was about having a gratitude practice.
Yeah, it did. It just took us back to, oh yeah, that's right. I feel good in my body today. Like that's abundance.
Yes, that's a gift.
I feel happy.
That's a gift for
Yeah.
sure.
And then day 16, today I remember to be grateful. So yeah, there's another. And then we forgive ourselves. So forgiveness is huge. So this was day 16 for me was really kind of profound because we had to go back and think about things that we haven't forgiven ourselves for. And like they do this in the 12-step program, like love and forgiveness. You go back and you ask for forgiveness from people that you feel like you've wronged. And it's a very healing process. So like to forgive yourself for things, wow, like I don't know about you, Caitlin, but like I was like, wow, I didn't realize I was really holding on to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, I Elaina love, forgive myself absolutely and lovingly, and you know, completely, that I was not more, you know, for me it was more involved with my son's school when he was alive. Like I felt like I have this thing where I kind of have separated myself because I feel like I'm so different. Like I'm in a different place spiritually, or I'm in a different place with what I eat or how I look at the world. Like, and then I didn't want to really be involved in things that I felt like were so different than me. And so like I isolated myself, which I've realized I've done a lot. So I was forgiving myself that I wasn't more involved in that. And you know, forgiving myself for even things I'm still working on, like not finishing the detox manual. I'm like, I feel so guilty every time I think about that. Why haven't I finished it? Okay, well, I'm just going to forgive myself for not having done it yet, and then I can move on. And it's like, oh, it just feels like you're letting yourself like, oh, okay, stressed out about everything I haven't done yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we put so many chains around ourselves and so many shoulds and shouldn't haves and all of these things. And you even said it to me the other day, like regret or guilt, those are 2 emotions that just do not serve you at all. And it's been sticking with me ever since. Like, yeah, I think you said guilt, but we can feel guilty about like not finishing a project or anything like that. And it's just like, oh, that's such a emotion that just, it doesn't perpetuate you forward. It doesn't motivate you to do the thing. It just takes you back in the past and makes you kind of feel like stuck or like, I'm so upset that I didn't do that. It's like, oh, if we could just replace that emotion with something completely different.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that was because I was talking to my friend Blessing about it, and she was really regretting a lot of things when her mom passed. Like she regretted that her mom, they were in a fight when her mom died. And I'm like, regret, and it came to me, like it just kind of came through me when I was talking to her. I'm like, regret and guilt are absolutely useless emotions. Like even in our caveman times, like those things have no place in our life because they don't make us better people. They don't make like us go, oh, because if we're guilty, like what can you gain from that? Absolutely nothing. You just, it makes you feel worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you want to go into that dark cave and feel bad. So yeah, so like what can we replace guilt with? Oh, forgiveness. Exactly, right? Regret and guilt can be replaced with forgiveness. Forgiveness is a loving emotion. Forgiveness is like, you did your absolute best. Regret and guilt are like, oh, you didn't do it good enough. Like it's a completely opposite emotion. And it's very low. If you've ever read anything by David Hawkins, he wrote a book called The Power versus Force, and he's written a lot of books. But it just talks about like the scale of emotions, and like regret, guilt, fear, anger, they're all very low emotions. And then as you move up the scale into even complacency is a higher emotion, or aloofness is a very much higher emotion than fear and anger. So it's just like interesting, like those lower emotions, sometimes we have to feel them, but they're not serving us. So like
Mm-hmm.
we can move into forgiveness, which is a beautiful emotion, and it's lighter and more loving and compassionate. Boy, you just start to, like, I feel it like physically in my body as we're speaking, like it makes me feel more alive and awake and aware.
And empowered to act. Like it is a very moving forward when we can forgive, because then it gives opportunity for us to grow and to learn. It's really hard to learn from something you regret or feel guilty about. You
Yeah.
seem to just like, then you start thinking about all the other things you feel regretful or guilty about.
Okay, so this makes me think of an inner child. Let's think of a real child, like you're a parent or you're an auntie or an uncle, and you've got this child in your life, this 2-year-old that you're taking care of, and then you're like, shame on you, you didn't do that right, or you did something wrong, or you should feel bad and guilty. And what's the kid doing? They're sucking their thumb on the couch in a ball in the fetal position. And then you go and you cradle them and hug them and love them, and you're like, oh, I love you, like you did the best you could. And then they start to just bloom. And so our inner child is the same way. Like we as parents of our inner children need to take care of that part of ourselves. I'm really feeling like, wow, how many of us are carrying around this inner child who's in there sucking their thumb going, Mommy, just love me. Please love me. Can't you see me for who I really am? And as soon as you go, I forgive you, it's like, oh, okay, I can come back out and I can see the sun and I can be playful again. Like that 2-year-old that's like suddenly now running through the house, like, yay,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's
Different.
beautiful.
I like that visual.
Yeah.
All right. That was a good day. That was day 16 was powerful.
That was a good day.
That was a good day. Oh, guess what one of my favorite days was? Writing my love letter to my country. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
wrote a love letter to America. Do you like that day?
I did. I mean, mine was to Canada, so that was good.
Yesterday.
I realized how much I miss it.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because, especially because, so talking about the USA, there's so many things people can focus on that, oh, our president, or, oh, this or that. But like, I'm like, wow, thank you for your beautiful waters and for your people. Like, I love American people. Like, when I've gone traveling and I lived in Bali for a year, I missed the culture and I missed the people and I missed the land and the waterfalls and the rivers and the fresh air. And like, there's just so many things about our own country, wherever you live, that like, wow, what to be grateful for about our land. So I love writing, like I love the English language and how well I can speak it. And like I can hear it through books on tape. And I love that it's my first language since the whole world uses English, and that it's easy for me. And like I just went on and on and on, but it was really fun because I got super into what I love about my country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we live in abundance just by where we live, and that's always a good reminder.
It's like just even things like that we grow up with an education without even like a free education without ever thinking like these girls in Africa that are they going to get an education? Like are these girls in China or wherever they live? Like do they get to be educated or do they grow up like not knowing stuff? So things that we might take for granted. I'm like I was educated from 5 years old, free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a good
Didn't have to
point.
pay anything for me to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Wow. Yeah, I can't wait to guide others through this. You know, I started my own group too, and it's been a lot of fun. Every person that's in my group is just like, just bowing in gratitude, like, oh, this was the perfect time for me. Like, I'm just so grateful that you introduced me. And I feel the same for you. And I feel like this is going to be a really great add-on to our coaching program in spring, because we already, you know, we talk a lot about a meditation, and we give them meditations to do, but just this whole series, it kind of feels like it also builds, well, it builds on each day. And yeah, it's just like an accomplishment when you get through it all. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the same for me. Like everybody that's in my course has been so grateful to me. Like, oh my gosh, this is just what I needed. And even the people that didn't finish, because some people, you know, aren't able to do the full 21 days for whatever reason, they're like, wow, even just the first few days that I did it, like I got so much out of it, and they still want to complete it. You know, sometimes it's time or things happen. But I've just got to say that it's just this one thing you're doing for yourself. If you have no other time, set your timer for 15 minutes earlier in the morning to get up. All you need is 15 minutes a day, except for like that one day that we said there's a lot of writing. Really 15 minutes a day is all you really need, because the meditation's around 10 to 12 minutes. And so the other 3 to 5 minutes you can spend writing. It's just profound. I feel so grateful that I've been able to share this with people and it's affected their life. And then you, like I shared it with you, Katelyn, and you've gone on to affect all these other people. So it's this ripple effect. I love the way that he set it up. It's just so beautiful, because you're expected to share it with people. And if you're listening to this now going, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, you can even do the assignment of just writing in your mind. If you did start a group, who would you share it with? And you don't have to start a group, so you can let yourself off the hook there. It's not mandatory to start your own group. But most of us are like, I want to share this, because it's an easy way to share with other people this amazing experience of feeling abundant in your life.
And I think that one of the big things too is accountability. So, you know, I felt accountability to myself to do every day, but I felt accountability to our group, like to you who invited me in, like that when there were days where it was 9 o'clock and I totally forgot to do it, or 9 p.m. at night, and I thought of you, and then I thought of me, and I thought, oh, I need to just do this thing. So that's also why I'm excited to bring it into the group, because doing something with a group, especially with abundance, like the consciousness of everyone doing the same thing at once, like that's kind of how I got people into my group, is like, you know, we're so much more powerful when we can do this together. And I didn't want to start my own group at the beginning. I'm like, oh, no one's going to want to do it. They're going to think this is weird, or, you know, people just don't have time. And then as soon as I did it, it was like this flood of gratitude came flowing to me. And I'm like, well, duh, everybody needs, you know, a little bit more abundance in their lives. And everybody loves to be a part of community and a group. So it's just like the best of all worlds.
And I think everybody needs a little bit of guidance. So
Yeah.
I'm a long-time meditator, and I get up every morning, but the first thing I have to do is choose which meditation I'm going to do. So on these 21 days, I didn't have to choose. It was like day 1 was in my inbox, in my app. Day 2, the next day, I wake up in the morning, there it is, waiting for me. And it was like, ooh, what's it going to be today? Like, what's my assignment today? I started to really look forward to it. There was actually never one day where I wasn't excited about it. Like, I would get up. I usually get up at 6 a.m. I turn my biomat on, which is my little crystal bed. And then I light my candle and I sit Indian style, and I sit there and I'm like, you know, light a little Palo Santo incense. And then I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, it's just, ew. And so for anybody that's been wanting to meditate, this is actually a great way to get yourself into this habit of sitting. You don't have to sit Indian style with a candle like me, but sitting in silence with yourself. Just like, this is a time for me. Just do it in the bathtub if you want, like whatever works for you. But it's just a time to like go within for 15 minutes.
So we'll definitely link to all of this in the show notes, obviously. And yeah, anything else you want to say about it?
Well, the last thing is, and this one really was profound for me. This is like one of the very last days of the course, is this kind of a parable about this too shall pass. And, you know, we've all heard that saying, but, you know, when you're in the deepest and darkest of times, like, you know, when my son died, you know, or even when my parents were dying and everything just feels in turmoil, and or times where you feel completely broke and you can't even pay your bills. The parable that is told in this 21-day course is about this, I think it was a king, but I forget the exact parable, but basically he's in a place where in the lowest of low of times. And it's like, he just remembered, or someone told him, this too shall pass. I'm like, what does that mean to you? And also to remember in the times when you're high and light, this too shall pass. So everything's impermanent. And I think that's like a Buddhist teaching. But what happened for me, even this weekend, when I went into my isolation cave and I was dry fasting and I was just feeling sorry for myself, like, oh, I don't have any friends, blah, blah, blah. Like, which was a total made up story. Like, I just went into this, whatever I went into. But that parable really was coming to me like, this too shall pass. Like, there's going to be a day where you're with your friends, like even coming up this week in Sedona, you're on a road trip, you're with all these yogis, you're going to be teaching, you're going to be having the most amazing, best time ever. So yeah, you're laying in bed dry fasting right now in a dark cave, but this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. And then it just, every great festival I've been at, or great experience I've had, or a great relationship I've been in, or amazing sex, or whatever it is, yes, it all passes. And there's something about that like, even though like, yeah, I probably will revisit times where I feel sad and lonely, there's also going to be the times where there's an abundance of friends and people and food and love and joy and green juice and everything around me. And like, that's just the cycle of life. And it gives me comfort,
Yeah. And I think it takes the pressure off of experiences or circumstances too, like having to make this thing the best thing ever, because this too shall pass. It is impermanent. By next weekend, we'll be moving on with our life and doing something completely different. So for me, it's kind of exciting too. It's like, I can never be stuck too hard on an emotion, because if I just remember that it's also an emotion that's going to pass, like it makes it a lot easier to move through certain things. So I really liked that one.
Yeah. And it helps me not give things so much importance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this really needs to happen, or like, oh, I really need to be in a relationship because, and then I'm like, because what? It will pass as well. Like, not that maybe if I got in something, I wouldn't be with that person for a long time, but emotions come and go. There's going to be times of ecstasy. There's going to be times when you're arguing. There's going to be times of, stressfulness, and there's going to be times of fun and joy. So like, what are you in a hurry to get to? Just enjoy your day to day. So that's what I say to myself. I'm like, today I feel the sun's coming in my window. I'm talking to you, Katelyn. I'm recording a podcast. I get to do some yoga later. I get to go to ecstatic dance tonight. And like, everything is all in flow. So really it's all about just being in the moment of flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he said, remember to love everything and everyone that you come into contact with. And that helps with, moving through emotions too. It's just knowing that like, everyone and everything around me also has my best interests, or at least I have my best interests. And if I'm flowing with love, then it's easier to remember that all love exists, and you can move through even the darkest of times too.
Yeah, totally. And something that kind of came up yesterday for me was like, when you hold a door for someone or you let them go and you expect to be thanked. And I was at the gym, with the coronavirus, it's like, you're not supposed to be touching hands on
yeah.
whole coronavirus thing, which is fear mongering, total crazy. We just want to talk briefly about the coronavirus and like what our thoughts are about it. But what I was realizing is I was holding the door open for these two women that they were involved in their own conversation, but they didn't even acknowledge that I was holding the door open for them. And I just laughed at myself later because I'm like, who cares? That was like 1 second in my life, and I did a nice thing for someone. And move on. Like, why are we so expecting other people to react in certain ways? Like, if I don't get it, like, this is a Seinfeld thing. He's like, where's my courtesy wave? Like when you let someone in the traffic. And
yeah.
A whole big deal about his courtesy wave. And it's like, yeah, in what ways are we expecting courtesy waves in our life? Like, well, I did this thing for you. And I think that's what gets us in relationships, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships, is like, well, I did this thing for you. So now I'm expecting something in return, whether it's you do the dishes or, you give me a courtesy, like, thank you for dinner or whatever. Like, I just think, how much do we create so much importance around that we completely can ruin our own days or our own 10 minutes of time ruminating on something stupid like someone not thanking me for holding the door open for them. Just kind of laughing at myself, letting them in traffic or, whatever it is.
It's so true.
All right, Katelyn, so 2-minute riff. What do you think of the coronavirus?
Well, I'm trying not to give it
By the way, or March 9th, 2020. By the time you're listening to this, if you're listening to this a year from now, it could be like completely irrelevant, but yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like, especially those of us in the health world, there's a lot of positive people. I've been trying to like surround myself, whether it be my social media or whatever, with people like Dr. Mike Hyman, or, you know, these like holistic practitioners that are also debunking the coronavirus myth, because I feel like mainstream media, you know, it's all about getting as many hits as possible. Like news companies and broadcasters, they're all about clickbait. They're all about, you know, they make the most money when they get the most watches. So everything that's really like exciting or buzzworthy or dramatic or fearful, like people are a lot more drawn to those. So I do feel like it's a media mayhem right now. And, you know, my partner, he works in a pretty large company, so I get also the downloads from like everyone at work. It just, I don't know what it's like for you in your community, but it's pretty intense. But honestly, I'm not trying to give it much attention.
Yeah. Well, I just did that cough for you guys so you can feel.
Secretly, she has the coronavirus.
Well, so my community that I hang around in, and I do admit I live in a bubble. I live in a very conscious, the two roommates that I have are super lit, super high consciousness, meditators, just like looking at the world in a positive way. My extended friendships, my dance community, everyone is pretty like high vibe people. Like, so they're more focusing on what's working in life and what's good in life and some of the stuff we've talked about. So I'm not really in that realm, but I will be in the gym because I go to the gym almost daily and I hear people kind of talking about it in total fear mode. And like just the jokes, even about the Costco toilet paper being sold out.
Oh, it's true.
I'm joking with my roommates. I'm like, so how's toilet paper going to cure the coronavirus? That's what, you know? So it's just like, if you start looking at just the absurdity of what's happening right now, people flooding, like I was in Costco the other day, flooding in there to like stock up. What are they thinking is going to happen? Like, I'm confused. So coronavirus is lack of abundance. Coronavirus is all about the lack. There might not be enough toilet paper left in the world. Why would there suddenly be no toilet paper? Like, I don't even understand that line of thinking.
Well, the thinking is that businesses will be shut down, so we'll be trapped in our houses for months on end, or, you know, even a couple of weeks. So people are trying to have as much in their house as possible, because like Italy right now is on a complete country lockdown. So I think that's where the fear comes from. But I think the fear comes from, oh, there won't be enough for me, so I need to have 10 times the amount. Otherwise, other people will take my share. So I'll just take extra of the share so that I make sure that my bases are covered. And it's a very like independent, one-minded, always like only me. It's everything only matters around me, and it's not really taking into consideration the entire collective consciousness, like all of our communities. Like, why do we need to buy 10 things of toilet paper? Like, really, how long are you going to be on a lockdown for? And you are taking, you know, away from what other people are going to have. So that's where the fear consciousness comes in. And I remember actually when I lived in Calgary, we had a flooding situation and stores were being shut down. And so as soon as they put that on the news, everybody flocked to the grocery stores and just bought all of the water in the grocery stores, like all of the bottled water, all of the packaged goods. Like, it was like within 24 hours, you go to the grocery store and the stocks would just be empty. So I think it's not just like this whole coronavirus thing. This happens when there's any sort of emergency or fear that there's not going to be enough for me and mine.
So that's just showing ourselves to ourselves, y'all. Like, we are seeing where our culture is at, where our consciousness is at as a collective. We're still in lack and fear. I mean, that's as a collective. I'm not saying the people that are listening to this podcast are that way, because we're probably in the 33 percentile, which is more the consciousness raising percentile. But it just kind of it's interesting. It just shows ourselves to ourselves, like, okay, so when, you know, the shit hits the fan, like, what are you going to do? And so I wanted to read this poem by Rumi that came across my desk yesterday. And I just think it's pretty apropos. It says, "The breezes at dawn have secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. So I think that that's just perfect. Like, are you going to be awake or are you going to be asleep during this coronavirus? Asleep means you're just following the herd, following the crowd, being in fear, buying up all the hand sanitizer. Guess what? People are going to get cold still. Things are going to happen. So, I mean, the reason we teach what we teach, which is healthy alkaline food and super, clear food that doesn't create acidity, and drinking your green juice and having your superfoods, all that's going to keep you healthy. So if you protect your own immune system, in your mind, you're like, nothing can touch me. Like, I'm fine. And then if you do feel a twinge of something, take some oregano oil. It's so funny because people are talking about hand sanitizer and all these things. I'm like, oregano oil is like the cure-all for any virus. Buy yourself some oregano oil and put it in some capsules and take that if you're nervous or worried about anything at all, or you feel like a twinge of swollen glands or a cough or something.
No, it is really interesting because another example is Bryce works with someone who has autoimmune, and I also have autoimmune, and her fear response was, I can't be around all these people. I'm more susceptible. I have autoimmune. Yet, like, she's eating, very acidic food, things like Dairy Queen, she's eating out, and it's like, I have autoimmune. Maybe I'm more susceptible, but I eat in a way that protects my body and creates more alkalinity in my body. And having the tools to be able to just, okay, I'm going to have extra green juice, or I'm going to make sure that my food is like really organic, really good ingredients. I'm going to take maybe some extra herbs that are really immune boosting. Maybe I'll add in some more astragalus this week, which is also a really good immune booster, or maybe some more medicinal mushrooms. Like, having that education and that knowledge, it allows for us to feel safer, and it's like freedom. It's like, I don't need, if I were to get sick, I don't need to go to the hospital. I have all of these tools in place. And that's why we're so passionate about it. It's like owning your health. Like, that's what this podcast slogan is own your own health. Like, take back your health into your own hands. And that's what all of our recipes do. That's what all of these videos are for, is like empowering you to educate yourself, to be able to take care of yourself in any time, whether it be crisis, whether it be, you're in a big conference room with all of these other people and germs at any other period in your life. Like, how can you make sure that your immunity and your health is in the best possible scenario? And it's not a lack of antibiotics. It's not a lack of going to a hospital. Like, you didn't get sick because you lacked this antibiotic or this medicine that they had. Like, you went there because your body wasn't in the healthiest state possible, which I believe we can all get to.
Right. And then remember also, there's whole courses that have been done on laughter and joy, and how that helps people cure their diseases when you're happy and joyful, and that fear is acidic and that it will cause stress, and that's what causes illness. If you find yourself stressing about it, go back to this abundance. Like, what can I find that makes me feel joyful and happy, and how can I feel abundant in my life right now? And that's going to create health and well-being. So it's not just about the foods we're putting in, which I believe also is like 90% of our health comes from, well, actually, I don't know what percent, but so much of it comes from what we're not putting in our body, like not putting in the bread, not putting in the sugar. Sugar destroys your immunity, people, by the way. And sugar is in the form of white sugar, but also bread, honey, brown sugar, coconut sugar. Fruit smoothies can be too sugary and cause an immune depletion. So don't fool yourself into thinking you're eating a ton of fruit and that's like keto diet is going to be really, really healing for your body, a green keto diet. And that's why we do what we do. And if all else fails, have a fast for a day. Just have some green juice or water for a day if you're feeling something, versus like that's what animals do, versus running to the hospital, which guess what's in hospitals? Tons of germs. Like, the last place you want to go is a place where all the germs are. So take care of yourself. And I know those of you guys who are listening to this aren't the types that are going to be running to the hospital, but I'm just saying, remember that your higher self is taking care of you in every moment, that meditation creates alkalinity, that eating healthy foods creates alkalinity, that joy, laughter, appreciation, and gratitude all are going to create way more health than any antibiotic could ever.
Amen, sister.
Amen, sister. Well, thank you for joining me today, Katelyn, and thank you all for listening. And we just want to remind you that in the show notes, there's going to be a link to our love camp, which is starting, it's called Keto Gone Green. It's starting in April. Which day in April, Katelyn?
April 3rd, and it's all about boosting our immunities. We're going to be eliminating all of the acidity and adding in meditation and all the good stuff. So you're going to learn how to cook for yourself again, everything that's going to protect you from any disease in your future.
Yep, and guess what? You can do it all from your house. You don't have to go outside. And let's see, what else? We have 2 retreats coming up, one in Sedona in May and one in Mount Shasta in July. And you can see those on purejoyplanet.com. And check out our store as well. We carry medicinal mushroom powders. We carry immune boosting probiotics, Coraflor. It's my absolute favorite probiotic right now. It really works for me better than anything else. I feel like I've truly healed my gut by using it. And we have lots of other super fun things like the amazing nut milk bag to make your own green juice with. Lots of free courses on there, like a whole free juicing course, a free 7-day gluten-free course if you're wondering how to go gluten-free, and lots of other culinary trainings on there as well that you can check into.
Yeah, and we have a lot of immune boosting tinctures on there. But please keep in mind that we are also getting an influx of orders from coronavirus scares. People are buying in bulk from us as well. So go on there right now.
Yeah, we'll do our best to fill your order ASAP. How about that? And we love you guys. Stay healthy. Own your own health. Be well. And we will see you in a week.
Mwah.
Bye.